we have created this inflation that ran out of control, not just because of that, but also because of a lot of corporate greed that have bumped up prices, and oil prices being one of them.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The strategy of trying to reach out to working folks, and this is something that, you know, a lot of this on political stuff, I think we definitely agree more than we disagree. But there is, like, tonally, I sometimes I have difficulty reading your columns. Like, it's just, it seems like there is a lot of, you know, like, looking down on people sometimes. And this is something, and maybe it's just that I, you know, being a union organizer, I have to talk to these people. And so I, like, just by virtue of what I do, I have to have a different posture. But in this tweet, like, that you had the other day, and Adam, you can throw that up. I've got it in the thing. And this is one of the things that I'm kind of talking about, where you said, quote, roughly half the country believes we're currently in an economic recession as they pack for a 10-day beach vacation that's 30% more expensive this year, not including the $5 gallon gas. To get there, the effectiveness of conservative media is amazing. And, like, I read that and I was like, who is he talking about? Like, who's, you know, like, I do not know. I have never in my life gone on a 10-day vacation. And and my family is, like, not poor, you know. I grew up well. I've never been on a 10-day vacation in my life. A lot of my friends have never been on 10-day vacations, and this is now as the Democrats in Washington allowed the child tax credit to expire, and now half of working families are having difficulty putting food on the table. And $5 gallon gas is like a real deal, you know, thing. We've got inflation at 8%, which is not, you know, this is a global phenomenon. It's not, you know, of course it's not because working people got some sort of relief during the pandemic. But, you know, reading this tweet, it read to me as like out of touch. Like, this guy doesn't know working people. This guy doesn't know what they're, you know. And so, like, and it plays into, it seems to me, the talking points that you get on right-wing media about liberal elites and stuff like that. And it seems to me that like liberal columnists and Democratic Party figures, they'll fall into this. And so I'm interested in how you kind of juxtapose some of the rhetoric that it seems to me that you fall into and that other people do with your prescription working for the working class. Like, how do you juxtapose those two things? Do you see them, like, do you see what I'm talking about? That I see a juxtaposition there? I see that you got one tweet that's really the context that you put it in. I don't think is accurate. What I was saying is simply that there's not a recession currently. There is, yeah. I mean, $5 gallon gas, and some of the other issues that have taken place here are certainly a problem. But check out what's taking place at our Gulf Coast for the rest of the summer. Check out what's taking place at all resort locations around, you know, where vacation locations around the South and other places. Right now, we are currently under 1% available bookings at most of these places. People are traveling all over the place. I believe our travel is up this year 30%, despite all of this is taking place. So the point was simply, we're not necessarily in a recession right now. What we have is a very good economy that was coming on the backside of a pandemic. And because of those two things crashing at the same time, we have created this inflation that ran out of control, not just because of that, but also because of a lot of corporate greed that have bumped up prices, and oil prices being one of them. And something, we could have passed a lot of things that could have tamped that down a lot. Matter of fact, Democrats tried to do one thing that Republicans were all voted against. Right. And so I think a lot of your economic future is based upon what's the attitude toward the economy in its current shape. And if you continue to tell people that we have an economy right now that's in a recession and, oh my God, it's going to be insane, then you're going to affect the way investors see the future. And you're also going to hurt things in the long term.
where if you actually put things in perspective and say, what we have right now, we got a lot of people that are still doing relatively well. We have a lot of working class people and below that, poverty level people that are struggling mightily because of things that have happened. And a lot of it is Democrats. And I have been very critical of them for, one, allowing the child tax credit, because there was a pathway to getting it done and they didn't get it done. No matter what you had to give up and all this stuff. And not to mention, you also got played by Joe Manchin, which everybody saw coming except apparently Joe Biden and some Democrats. All right. You got played, and so we still have this, though, and you look at some unbiased economists out there, and they'll tell you that the inflationary period that we're going to have is going to be relatively short-lived. And so on the backside of this thing is going to be relying upon how people feel about the economy and what we can do. And that's my point here, is what conservative media is trying to push forward on people is that, oh, my God, the sky is falling, and we're going to be in horrible shape for unless we get Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or some other Republican into the White House and Republicans take over both houses of Congress. That's the point of conservative media. They don't give a shit about anything else. So they don't care about the working class people. They don't care about anything else. Their only point is to say this. And that was my point with that tweet, is this is not the reality for most of the people right now, is that we're not going to have this, oh, my God, the sky is falling thing forever. What we're going to have is we got an economy that right now is on the verge of having some bad things happen. And yes, I understand that on the verge may discount some people's struggles, and that's always the case. But we're talking about the overall view of America here. And I think that right now they're on the verge. And if we push it this way, then it's going to be bad for a lot of people. But if we continue to say, I think we can take these steps and work ourselves, and it'll be a fine economy, because I think it was headed that way with Joe Biden at the helm to begin with. And if we could have passed the Build Back Better plan and got that out of Congress, then I think a lot of things would be so much better for a lot of those people at the bottom. But they're not going to be aided by everybody saying, oh, my God, we got to stop investing in these things, and we've got to stop doing this stuff, because we're going to hurt them overall in the long run.
Well, and the Fed raising interest rates, and Biden not doing anything about it. When the Fed was raising interest rates under Trump, he continually railed against them, and he actually got them to cut rates. And this is the same chairman. For some reason, Biden felt compelled to appoint Jerome Powell back to the Federal Reserve, and now he's raising interest rates.
They're all the same, man, in a lot of ways. And that's why I was never really a Joe Biden guy. I mean, I like Joe Biden fine. I think he's a decent human being who wants to do good things, but he's been there for so long. He's caught in the, in that kind of DC trap of things, where, by a person that would be much more appealing to working class people, myself and a lot of people listening to y'all, is, somebody like AOC, and or Bernie, or, a lot of those people would affect the working class people so much better than Joe Biden has. And he's not going to do it. I mean, and the other thing is allowing these major corporations to continue to buy large chunks of real estate in the housing market, and force people into these just absurd prices on things where they can control the whole market. Now, you can't continue to allow that, and you see it happening every day right in front of you. Matter of fact, you've encouraged a couple of these people to continue doing this shit, and it just because you think it looks good for the housing market numbers and the economy is better off, and it's going to kill people long term, and we all see it coming. Everybody sees it. That's what I'm saying. Listen, there are a few unbiased economists out there that don't worry about going on TV shows and all this kind of stuff, and they just tweet out kind of what they see in the numbers every day, and you look at them and you follow their ideas and their projections for stuff, and it's always the same, and it's a disaster waiting to happen for a lot of people, and you can control it. There are means to control this very easily at the federal level, and they're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, that's where I'm just going to get back to. We need a movement of folks to challenge corporate greed. That has to go beyond simply voting. Yes, we should all go vote. We need to bring friends to vote. We need to, vote in every election they'll still allow us to vote in. And hell, who knows how long that'll be. Yeah. But we have to look back at history and see the way in which working people organized in the 50s and 60s to gain civil rights and women's rights, and look at the ways in which we fought to gain the right to unionize, and fought, sometimes literally fought with the government. And I'm not condoning violence, just for anyone maybe listening, but
kick ass, right? It's a. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're right. The organization of people, and just, I mean, you look at the charts, you look at the wages. Look at wages. You can mark them. The decline. The charts, they flow right beside each other. The decline of union workers and the decline of wages. And it just, you've got to understand that that's the biggest problem that I have with government today, and the way, and a lot of this plays back into media, and the way media has been, has been so destroyed in a lot of ways. Is you've lost this idea of people being knowledgeable about their own situations and voting for their own interests. And if people would vote for their own interest and for the interest of people like them, then we could solve this thing in the next election, but we're not going to do it. All the social issues, and the misuse of social media has really caused this sort of a problem, and this disconnect that people seem to have between the reality of their own lives and the people that they're voting for, and how it just, there's also tinges of racism and classism and other things that take, precedent in these things. And it's unfortunate, but that's how we've set this thing up, and it seems to be working for a few people, but certainly not the majority.
Right. But the thing is, we are the majority. And it's easy to lose sight of that, especially when we see depressing news day after day. When we see a state government dominated by reactionaries, it's easy to lose sight of that we are the majority. The majority of people do not agree with with the rightward shift of this country, and the rest of this country becoming more like Alabama. That's not what popular opinion is for, and working class people are the majority of this country. I mean, bottom line, most people don't have anything but their labor to sell. And I think that's where we can unite. And I think it's up to Democrats to earn those votes, to go out and to convince people who haven't voted in a few years why it's worth their 10 minutes, if they can spare it.
Or 3 hours.
Or 3 hours. That's a whole nother issue. But I mean, it's worth it to make that effort, and I'd like to see Democrats make that effort to try to earn those votes, because we can sit here and we can bitch and moan about how people, we're surrounded by a lot of bigots, we're surrounded by a lot of idiots who are brainwashed, and they're not going and voting for their own interest. And yes, that's true, but what are we going to do about it? Where's our theory of change? If we do what, then what will happen? And I think that's the missing part that I haven't seen in state politics in Alabama. Whether it's AEA, whether it's the Alabama Democrats, Republicans don't need a theory of change.
Right.
No.
They don't have to go through any of this. They've got it made. But everyone else, the rest of us who have some, concern about exploitation and oppression, we don't have a choice but to do so.
Yeah, up here in North Alabama, especially, there's still a lot of people who view very fondly unions, because they understand their family history, and they understand a lot of them wouldn't be here without a union. Their families were on the verge of decimation, and so, there's still a lot of good feelings about that. But the longer you wait, the more you're losing those people, and you hear
similar to the New Deal.
Right to work. Yeah,
I think the New Deal. There are a lot of parallels. A lot of families' lives were changed for the better.
My very right-wing granny has fond memories of FDR, and she votes Republican now, but she remembers fondly FDR and the New Deal. I can't get her to understand why.
Yeah,
why is it you think, Granny, that everybody in your life thought FDR was cool as shit? I wonder. Why is it you think that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's odd that he had all these socialist programs, and and that seemed to save all of these socialist lives. And by socialists, I mean everybody. It just, you're right, man. They've done, the Republicans have done a phenomenal job at marketing themselves and playing on a select number of social issues and really hammering those things into the ground and using them, media and social media to divide and play defense. Currently, just look at right now where their entire line is, oh, Joe Biden is terrible on inflation. He's terrible on X. He's terrible on this. And to date, they have not offered a single solution for any.
Oh, no.
Not
of
even
course not.
offered.
They won't?
Yeah.
No.
They don't have to.
Joe Biden is bad. We hate teachers. We're spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
Play it's like a 4-second clip of, no, we don't have the clips going to Zoom. But Rick Scott said, and I'm sure you know that he's got this tax plan that'll raise taxes on the poorest and cut taxes.
That is the only plan they've offered is the one to raise taxes on everybody working. Yeah,
right. But he was at a speech the other day where he said Americans are the most spoiled people in the world or something. It's like, oh man,
listen, doesn't everybody have access to Medicaid fraud? I mean, come on.
Right.
Don't you? Didn't you just yesterday have $20 or so million worth of Medicaid fraud?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, I'd feel pretty spoiled right about now if I was sitting on that.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Josh, I appreciate
you can be a lizard man and be successful.
There you go. Yeah.
20 million.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.